Hi everybody, Matt Lawton here. This is the Astrological Winds channel, and I'm going to take a look at the astrological weather report for the week of May 23rd to 29th. And just real quick in the beginning here, since gotta remember to do this, my contact for any reason to try to get in touch with me, best way is my email, mattthue823 at gmail.com. That's mattthue823 at gmail.com. The blog is on every week on YouTube first. So if you do have a YouTube account, you can be a follower of the Astrological Winds channel and then just turn on your notifications too, and it'll tell you every week when the blog comes up, which is usually Monday. And otherwise, you can look me up also on Instagram, Astrological Winds channel. I also post some daily stuff sometimes there each week. Not every day, but certain days I'll add some more stuff, so you may be missing some interesting things there. And I don't do a video or audio on that. That's just a blast on a comment when I do that weekly, but I do post the blogs link every week on Instagram too. You can also Facebook me and ask to become a friend. It's a private Facebook account that I just use for astrology, and it's Matthew Lawton, Lauten. So just ask for that. Otherwise, also available on all kinds of podcasts, distributed out through Buzzsprout. I know, like Spotify and Apple Podcast, Reveal, and I think there's between 15 or 20 of them out there that have it. So once again, just look up Astrological Winds channel and you'll be able to find me that way. And the email's the best way to get me for readings or other things. All right, so this week, I've said this before, the three inner planets, that's Mercury, Venus, and Mars, are really, everything we do almost every day on Earth is like, we are the sun and moon, basically, and everything that we're doing in relation to our life on Earth has most of it's covered by those three planets, and they're pretty active this week. In particular, Venus and Mars are both changing signs and actually going into signs that they're very strong in what we call rulership. So they're in like really a dynamic phase, but they're both also getting some interesting aspects, and Mercury is deep within its retrograde cycle right now, where we're really into the inner mind conversation going on. So this all starts. So what I'm going to do, go through it in the week, and I'll sum it up also at the end, each individually, what they're doing. But they're working off of one another, like astrology always does, very holistic, and the energies are blending together and working off of one another. And Monday starts with a very interesting day, Monday. It's a day where there's a lot of opportunity to, bring change into our lives in a way that's future acting, future visions, expanding, personal growth, and also really, even though Mercury is retrograde, having a place where we can start that, like inside our mind, like the thoughts have been, that are planted there, we can start lining up inside our mind what we're going to do, how we're going to plan to do something like that. And what we got going on is the sun is sextile Jupiter at the same time that Mercury retrograde is sextiling Mars. So, together, and also very interesting too, this today is Venus is conjunct Eris, which can bring a lot of change via relationships. So what may spur a lot of this stuff is, this conjunction of Venus and Eris may have us have some sudden new changes via relationships, and that may be in some cases like, loss or separation or moving away from certain ones. And with other ones, it may be new ones coming in. It is a conjunction. So it's something that where there's like changes that are occurring that are a new beginning of a new cycle. So that also can have a lot to do with new relationships coming in. And with Eris involved, it has a lot to do with change. Depending on what your attitude is about that, it can be something that is upsetting to you, or it can be something that you're really welcoming in because it's bringing in some change and transformation into your life. So when I think about that, you combine that with the Sun sextile Jupiter, which is really that forward-looking personal growth, opportunity, and a very positive, optimistic attitude of wanting to broaden the scope of things. And that can really invite in, some new opportunities and stuff. And so even though Mercury is retrograde with the sextile to Mars, like I said, I think because Mercury is on a deep inner journey right now in this part of the retrograde cycle, that it can really be used to line up our thoughts about how we're going to approach doing that stuff. Start to almost get our ducks in a row inside our own minds. It's a good way to say that, and that way, using all those energies together with this positive outlook will start to create a positive feedback loop. And once again, it's sextiles, so it's these are things where you have to take the opportunities yourself. But it's a time when there's really you can get expansion coming through other people, through other experiences, through new knowledge that's being shared. And it's also a time where you're kind of willing to take some risks in a balanced way about moving forward. And the Mars Mercury will give you some of the confidence to do that too, to want to really take some risks, push ahead, and start using also communications in a positive way to try to bring changes in. So very interesting. And it's interesting too that the Mars and the Mercury are both at the 29th degree too. So they're at that critical degree where it's wow, a lot of stuff is built up to that moment that can spark those opportunities. So it's really a time when you can really get some positive flow and feedback and change to your ideas. And then the very next day, Mars goes into Aries on Tuesday. And so Mars is really strong in Aries. Mars has some different kind of sub-personalities or models, and in Aries it's the warrior. It's the one that we're very aware of, and what Mars is ruling is our actions. So, and that's what I mean about it being such a big part of one of the inner planets, of being so much of what we do every day. We're very active. So Mars is ruling the things that motivate us to act, and we take action. And when it goes into Aries, it is the sign where it's the most active. So it's really what we call in rulership, because it's in a sign where the individual is in their most strength to act as they really want to, and so it's the warrior archetype that it's in, and what we have to be clear of is just that, hopefully we're using that archetype in a way that is a good and protective. That's what the initial warrior was to protect the others, to protect the tribe, to be this strong, confident, protective person who is admired and also somewhat, maybe feared a little bit too because of the strength. But when Mars is in Aries, it really needs a new adventure. It really wants to strike out on its own if it has to. It's very self-motivated. I mean, it always will love to have some cohorts along, or comrades along for the journey, so to speak, but it will take initiative by itself, and that's why it's so strong there. It's not, going to slow down. So it's a very assertive energy. The problem with it is it can become an aggressive energy. When it's not consciously aware, it can become easily angered, easily irritated, very impatient. Aries is very impatient and get very headstrong about that kind of behavior too. So kind of like stubborn about it. And that's the part of it where, it's going, can be too maybe blunt and can get into situations where it's aggressive, really. It goes beyond assertive and goes into aggressive, but it definitely gives like a very competitive mindset, and is very quick to getting angry, but also is good at letting the anger go. It's very uncompromising energy, and is willing to battle for what it believes in. Its issue can be that it can be a little too rash, a little too impulsive, and can, really get into that aggressive kind of energy. But Mars will be in Aries for a couple months, so it's a time where we can really self-initiate and welcome in the change. And remember, with Chiron in Aries too, eventually it is going to conjunct Chiron. And as I said, once again, a lot of that has to do with just like being responsible for our own healing path. What's interesting too, one of the asteroids on Tuesday also changes signs, and that's Vesta, which is all about a brotherly or sisterly energy, with groups and people that we share that kind of energy with. And when it goes into Pisces, it really likes to, Vesta's about service. It's a lot about service. It has a very Virgo kind of energy at times. And so when it goes into Pisces, it's all about serving others, and the problem with it is it can, like most Piscean energy, that can kind of create boundary issues, but it does give opportunities for sensitive spiritual healing. Even sexual healing would be another thing, but at times it can also have unclear boundaries with both spirituality and sexuality and things like that. But it can really, get on a good focused path also that brings healing through art and spiritual journeys, and like I said, even sexual healing. So it's interesting that she changes signs that day too. Now Venus continues her journey Tuesday too, like I said, conjuncting Eris Monday, which brings in change via relationships, but then on Tuesday sextiles Saturn. It's very interesting there because that's all about wanting to stabilize relationships. That's about wanting to, get like some physical agreement or solidity to the relationship. So it's a lot of times about making like, negotiations or arrangements on a very like sober level with people, even your loved ones, having, nailing down some solid focused arrangements and stuff. And it really does favor like business type relationships in reality more than any other type, and is really good for coming in, into agreements with people on the professional level. You can also get like help, too, from people maybe that might be more experienced or older or more professional in whatever subject matter that you're trying to get help with. But and then also gives a great focus in the areas of creativity, where you can really concentrate on your whatever you're doing creatively, including art, and good management with money and finances too is another benefit of this. So yeah, really interesting journey as Venus, like I said, goes into that conjunction with Aries, might bring some change, but then all of a sudden wants to bring some stability down. Now, Wednesday is the second hit of Mercury's trine to Pluto during this retrograde cycle. And I think that really just shows once again, just like when Mercury backed up into Taurus this past weekend and had its inferior conjunction with the sun, that we're in that deep middle part of the Mercury retrograde cycle. And the trine to Pluto is just going to enhance that even more. In fact, if anything, it's going to be this real nice flow of wanting to bring transformation inside, because we see things inside ourselves more easily now, and maybe see them even reflected in the others around us. So it can bring up like how the inner workings of the mind and psyche are operating within ourselves and in others. And it can really want us to change those, because we can see them now, and then see really bring a focus and concentration to adjusting those things. And that's another great thing about the Mercury Pluto. Anything that you're into researching or investigating on that kind of level and getting that real deep focus in, it's a great time to do it. But during this inner time, it's definitely this strong desire in a very positive way to want to change our inner landscape and make it more healthy, and really plume deep into our minds and see how they're working into our psyche, and get a better understanding of ourselves, and get more power over the energy that's driving us, and then also wanting to communicate that too, having some really deep conversations with others who, maybe on that similar kind of path or journey. And, like I said, once again, bringing a good focus. Then Venus's journey continues on Thursday, going into Friday with a square to Pluto. So we have the Eris, then we go to the sextile to Saturn, and then we go to the square with Pluto. Now, Venus is once again, one of those inner planets. It's all about our relationships, our money, and our creativity. So those are three of the big things we're doing all day long again. And here it is squaring Pluto in this critical degree again. We're at the very end of the signs here, and it's it seems like what's going to happen is the intensity of experiences in relationships is, been brought to the surface, is what this is saying. And it may be that certain ones don't have anything to offer anymore. Like we've learned a lot from them. We've learned a lot about ourselves. Once again, with Pluto, we've learned a lot about our own inner workings, but it's also seeing, the shadow not only in ourselves, but in others and having that reflected. So some of those others they no longer may be able to be in our life in an important way. So there's the reality of the emotional experiences is out there on the floor to be seen. And certain others just don't fit with where your transformation has taken you with that. But with others, you may find that you have deepened like a connection that is really starting to intertwine you on a really deep level. And it's self-empowering first, and so those ones, those are relationships that can get to a much deeper level because you're willing to face that intensity together. But the danger of this one really is to fall into a trap, especially with relationships that, have been established for a while, and there is intense stuff coming up, and to try to manipulate them, to try to, coerce them, strong arm them, even victimize them into doing what you want. It's going to be very, very self-destructive ultimately to those relationships to do something like that. So very intense journey, an interesting journey for Venus this week, getting involved with the Eris-Pluto square, but yet also having, Saturn there to kind of bring it down, bring things down. But it's really, really like having to accept a lot of the changes in relationships, and then how that's changed your attitude about relationships. And then, to me, the payoff to that is the way you approach future relationships can now be in this different tone and attitude, eyes more wide open, or whatever you want to call it. It's interesting too, that same time Mars does a semi-square to Uranus, which does show like actions that we may take out of like individualism, more independence, more freedom, are like rebellious and upsetting to others, so they may be exciting to us, and it may feel awkward and jagged for a bit, how, actions may seem like they come out of the blue when they're coming from others, or when they're being perceived from coming out of us by others as being like these very like quick, impulsive, upsetting actions. So very interesting. And then Venus continues her journey Saturday, just like Mars, going into a different sign, into Taurus now, and once again, like Mars, going into a sign she rules. So now all of a sudden she can really tone down her act. Venus loves being in Taurus. Taurus is where the goddess gets to enjoy all the sensual pleasures of nature and the rhythms and the body. The goddess really gets to enjoy her earthly delights, is really what it comes down to. So, and she's in a great mood about, accepting others as they are, is very affectionate and loving to the people who are her family, and will increase what that is at this time. So she's really supportive of her loved ones, really enjoys the pleasures of life. So that will be going on for 2-3 weeks, and Venus will be in this very, very like zone of where she flows and really can enjoy life. So, and then Sunday is a really big day too. The last thing I wanted to mention is Mars is going to conjunct Jupiter on Sunday, and they're both in Aries at this point. So, I mean, this is super charged positive energy. It's very optimistic energy. It's ready to go out there and take things on. There's like a lot of physical energy available next weekend, so it's a great weekend, to take on some kind of like adventure project, whatever it may be, really pouring yourself into whatever you like to do, your hobby, your work, your career, some kind of outdoor adventures, sports, things like that. There's just this very confident bravado type of energy that really creates its own good luck and is really just like, into the zone of very optimistic attitude, firing up initiative to take action on it, and just really able to, face even taking like risks with the right attitude. So like a positive feedback loop. So it's a real good time to take off on your own actions to expand anything that you're personally interested in doing. So what an interesting week, I mean, Venus doing this journey of, which, like I said, mainly about relationships, so could have to do with your money and creativity too, of this journey of conjuncting Eris. So she's gonna, probably deal with some changes, but then sextiling Saturn. So finding some kind of stability with some people and maybe favoring some kind of professional type relationships, and then squaring Pluto, where she's like, okay, certain relationships just can't be like they are anymore and need to be moved forward from. And then going into Taurus, where once that purging occurs, life seems to maybe open up and become much more enjoyable. And then Mars doing its journey of, our actions, our motivations, what we're doing each day, first sextiling that Mercury retrograde and giving us opportunities to, start to, take initiative even inside of what we want to do. And then going into Aries, we're so strong and we'll just like take actions and just move forward. And, maybe there's a little bit of edginess with the semi-square to Uranus about like moving away from certain people and things and moving into new experiences, and then conjuncting Jupiter, where it's just this burst of positive energy and physical energy to just go forward. And then Mercury, like I said, retrograde in the deep part of like changing the psyche with that trine to Pluto, really adjusting our attitudes. So what a dynamic week, a lot of like interesting changes and opportunities to change and take initiative and do things. So, all right, I'm Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel. It is on every week. YouTube, become a follower, turn your notifications on. It's also on all kinds of podcasts, distributed out through Buzzsprout, Apple iPodcasts, Spotify, Reveal. Just look it up. Look up Astrological Winds channel. Also, I post the link on Instagram. Just look up Astrological Winds channel, become a follower. Also, if you're not a follower on Instagram and you do have an account, I do sometimes do daily comments too on certain days. Not every day. There's certain days where I'm like, oh, there's some certain other stuff you guys should know about it if you're interested in that. So, and also, like, you can friend me, do a friend request on Facebook under Matthew Lawton, Lauten. And I also post the link on there. And that's really all I use Facebook for, really, is just that. So, and otherwise, yeah, if you'd like to give a donation, anyone who's gives one, I thank you so much. People out there definitely do. Can always look me up on my Venmo handle is the same. It's at Matthew-Lawton, Lauten. I'm also on Zelle and PayPal. And I do readings. I'm a professional astrologer. I've been doing readings for over 20 years now. And so if you'd like to talk about getting your chart done or your predictive work, which is a weather report just like this that I do every week, except it's for you for your year, get in touch with me. I do relationship charts, children's charts, fixed star readings for deeper soul purpose, relocation and astrolocality type things, elections, if you're looking for the best timing of an event that you want to have, horary questions, if you're looking for an answer to something that you can't seem to get an answer to, all kinds of things. Classes available too, 5 beginner classes at $25 a piece. $20 if you're a student with an ID. Just get them through Dropbox. Just get in touch with me for all this stuff. Best way to get in touch with me is my email, matthe823@gmail.com. That's matthe823@gmail.com. And then if you become a follower on any of the blog things too, you can always get me through the comments section. All right, I think that takes care of all the promotion. A very interesting week in the real world with the Mars and Venus active, and in the inner terrain world with Mercury retro. So we will, a great opportunity to bring some change and burst it forward with that Mars-Jupiter conjunction next weekend. All right, next week, we'll be going into June. We'll see if I can do both June and the first week of June in the same blog. If not, I'll have to do 2 different ones. And we should have a new moon in Gemini coming up too. Yes, indeed. So interesting stuff for next week. I'll see you all then. This is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel.